UEFA made one phone call and accidentally triggered the most insane twist in football history. A team that wasn't even supposed to be there walked straight into the tournament and did the unthinkable. Fans laughed until they didn't. Stick around, because by the time this story ends, you'll never look at international football the same way again. In 1992, Denmark found itself at the heart of one of football's most unexpected triumphs. A story so improbable it forever altered the rules of the game. It all began with the unthinkable. Yugoslavia, the original qualifier for the European Championship, was disqualified due to its civil war, and Denmark, who had failed to qualify by just 1 point, was called up at the last minute to take their place. The Danish players, who were already looking forward to a summer of rest, were suddenly thrust into the spotlight of international football, with no preparation and no expectations of success. The team's goalkeeper, Peter Schmeichel, had been dreaming of the beaches and sun, but instead, he found himself suddenly preparing for the European Championship, where they were considered long shots. With barely any time to regroup, the Danes knew they were going into the tournament against the best Europe had to offer, teams like Germany, France, and the Netherlands. Yet, what followed was a fairy tale that would leave the football world stunned and force a change in the very rules of the sport. Denmark's journey began in the most unlikely of circumstances. When UEFA announced that Denmark would take Yugoslavia's place in the tournament, it was met with skepticism from the footballing world. How could a team that had not even qualified be expected to compete with the giants of European football? But the Danes had something to prove. Their manager, Richard Nielsen, understood the enormity of the task ahead, but he also knew that the team had nothing to lose. Denmark had been thrust into the tournament at the last minute, and they were now facing teams that had prepared for months. The only way they could hope to succeed was by playing a game that no one would expect, a defensive, counter-attacking style that would frustrate even the most formidable teams. The first match saw Denmark take on England, a team full of talented players and high expectations. The English press had already written Denmark off as no more than a mere formality for their campaign. But what followed was a display of sheer determination and exceptional goalkeeping. Denmark's ace, Peter Schmeichel, stood as a seemingly impenetrable wall. His saves were nothing short of miraculous. England dominated possession, pressing high and testing the Danish defense. But Schmeichel was on another level. He made world-class save after world-class save, diving to his left and right, keeping the English team at bay. Each time England came close, Schmeichel was there, a brick wall in front of the goal. Despite all their efforts, England failed to score. The match ended in a goalless draw, but the Danes had earned the respect of their opponents and the footballing world. In the dressing room, there was disappointment, as the team felt they deserved more. They had played better than England, and yet they hadn't won. But as they reflected on their performance, something remarkable began to take shape. Denmark had shown that they could compete, that they could hold their own against a team like England. The belief started to grow. They might not have won, but they had proven they were capable of more. The second game saw Denmark face Sweden, the host nation. The Danes dominated the game, creating several chances, but luck was not on their side. Sweden scored on a counterattack, and despite creating numerous opportunities, Denmark couldn't find the back of the net. They were left to rue their missed chances, and their hopes of progressing from the group stage seemed all but gone. At this point, the media had written them off. They had been given credit for their gutsy performances, but were expected to bow out of the tournament. But then, a miracle happened. The Danes knew that they still had a chance, however slim. If they could beat France in their final group match, and if Sweden could beat England, Denmark would advance to the knockout stage. It was a long shot, but in football, anything can happen. June 17th, 7:15 p.m., the final group matches would determine everyone's fate. Denmark's match against France started well. The Danes pressed early, and in the 8th minute, a ball fell to Larsen, who blasted it into the back of the net. The Danes went wild with celebrations. But then came the bad news. England had scored against Sweden, and if the score remained the same, Denmark would still be eliminated. But in an unexpected twist, Sweden managed to level the game, and Denmark's hopes soared again. In the 78th minute, Elstrup scored the winning goal, and Denmark took a 2-1 lead. The celebrations were wild, but there was still one more hurdle to cross. With Sweden beating England, Denmark had secured second place in the group and a spot in the semifinals. The knockout stage was a different challenge altogether. Denmark's next opponent was the Netherlands, the reigning European champions. The Dutch had been in excellent form, winning their group and playing some of the most attractive football of the tournament. But Denmark had already shown they were no strangers to upsets. The Danes had developed a knack for frustrating their opponents, and the Netherlands would not be an exception. The match began with a stunning goal from Larsson, who scored off a well-placed cross in the 5th minute. The Dutch were shocked. They hadn't expected Denmark to be this organized and disciplined. But as the game went on, the Dutch came back strong. Dennis Bergkamp scored a stunning volley to equalize, and for a moment, it seemed like Denmark's dream run might come to an end. However, the Danes weren't finished yet. 10 minutes later, Larsson struck again, putting Denmark back in the lead. The Dutch pushed forward, but once again, Denmark's defense held firm. The match ended in a 2-1 win for Denmark, sending them into the final. The penalty shootout that followed was a dramatic affair, with Schmeichel saving a crucial penalty from Marco van Basten, the Dutch superstar. Denmark held their nerve, and when it was all said and done, they had booked their place in the final. In the final, Denmark faced Germany, the reigning World Cup champions. The Germans were the favorites, and many thought that Denmark's fairy tale run would come to an end here. But once again, Denmark's strategy was simple. Frustrate the Germans, keep it tight, and rely on their goalkeeper. The Germans pressed early, but Schmeichel was unbeatable. In the 18th minute, Denmark took the lead with a stunning goal from Jensen, and the Danes were on top. The Germans pushed forward, but Schmeichel kept them at bay. In the 78th minute, Denmark sealed the win with a second goal from Wilford, and despite the Germans' best efforts, Denmark held on to win 2-0. Denmark's victory was nothing short of miraculous. They had come from nowhere, taking advantage of an unexpected opportunity to win the European Championship. But their triumph wasn't just about their defensive tactics or their reliance on Schmeichel. It was about their belief, their resilience, and their determination to prove the world wrong. In doing so, they changed the footballing landscape forever. After their victory, UEFA decided to ban the back pass rule, a decision that would have a profound impact on the way football was played. But for Denmark, the victory was enough. They had done the unthinkable, and they would forever be remembered as the team that defied the odds and changed the game. So, was it destiny, luck, or something deeper that carried Denmark from the beach to European champions? Would this kind of miracle even be allowed to happen in today's football world? Let's hear your thoughts. Was this the greatest underdog story ever? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you crave more unbelievable football stories, don't forget to subscribe. More jaw droppers are coming.